We have a team of nurse practitioners and a medical director. And so whenever anybody comes in for, like a NAD bag, you're filling out medical forms, a professional is looking at it and they're making sure that you are a good candidate. Like, it's not just walking in and saying, I'm not the one saying, oh yeah, you're good to go. No, you're getting a medical clearance for doing everything that we do. And so what you're talking about with like Western medicine, Eastern medicine. So I have seen, as a firefighter, and I've seen Western medicine, like there's a lot of amazing benefits to Western medicine, how, they've been able to, change people's lives and impact people's lives and, save, countless billions of lives. But the problem is they want people hooked on it. And so there's not money, there's not incentives for, the cure. They want to keep people on medications. And, you look at every one of these commercials that, which is rather strange that we're one of the very few countries in the world that allows pharmaceutical companies to actually put commercials out there and, try to sway the public to go to their doctors and say, hey, do I need this medication? Should be the other way around. But, I don't believe that Western medicine is incentivized to do the cure or provide the cure. And that's unfortunate. And so that's where I believe, having a combination of Eastern and Western medicine and doing like, I shot my eye out with the bottle rocket. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm a firefighter, did something dumb. And I was instantly blind. I ripped my cornea off, lodged a piece of metal in my iris, exploded my lens. My eye was a big pile of goo. And so I went and, went to an ER. I literally like knocked on the back door, like punched in the code and was like walking in. I'm not waiting in the back with this, my eye all jacked up. And so they went and they sent me to, Harborview after, they saw the metal and everything in there. And I spent 3 days up there. They reconstructed my eye. And then I could not see through it at all. Like, it was like trying to look through mustard. And so then I went and I saw, some, multiple eye surgeons, and I saw 5 different surgeons that told me, I hope you can be a half-blind firefighter. I'm like, I'd be a half-blind firefighter? Like, no, that's not how this works. And so I kept seeing different ones, and finally I met a guy or got referred to him, and I went and he put me in for an emergency surgery because I had ruptured that lens, and that protein was in a part of my eye that I'm not supposed to be in. And so with the proteins in there, he said it's possible for my body to actually be building antibodies against that protein, and it could cause like major eye issues in both eyes and potentially go blind. And so he scheduled me for an emergency surgery the next day. He cleared all that out, and I went from being able to not see through that to basically everything. I could see shades and colors and that sort of thing. Took me, excuse me, 4 years later, I now see 20/25 out of this eye. And so there's a huge benefit to modern medicine. But that same doc, I had cornea transplant, lens implant, probably 24 surgeries. And even like that doc was like, okay, like you need to be on these steroids for the rest of your life, these eye drops. And I was just like, no. And he's like, what do you mean no? He's like, your body's going to reject that cornea if you don't do it. I was like, I will do it short term. It's like, but what is the steroids doing? It's like, it's reducing the inflammation. I was like, there's tons of stuff that I can do naturally that can reduce inflammation. And so I went and I reduced the inflammation in my body. I went off of the steroids after, 3 months. And, I have had no issues. And that was back in 2010 with, my cornea transplant. And so I believe that modern medicine and things, like, they are fantastic for the short term. But if you're looking for longevity and you're looking for actually feeling good and living a good life, you have to do more of the, taking care of yourself with eating good foods, taking care, I believe in like doing the red light therapy, making sure your body's getting the vitamins, and that's the other thing is getting good food. That's a hard thing to get in the United States, as if our bread is classified as a cake in most other countries because there's so much sugar in it, which is insane. But we need to be doing something to take back control of our own health. We need to be kind of, captaining our own, what we want out of life and how we want to live it. And, just not waiting for somebody to push a pill on us until we get one symptom, then they push another pill to cover the symptom for that symptom, then push another pill to cover the symptoms from those other symptoms. I see every day people taking, handfuls of 10, 15 pills all at the same time. And it's just like, well, that's the world we live in now. And it's unfortunate. And I think there's a lot of people waking up to that's not the reality that they want to live in. And so, and they're not just people in general, but doctors and everyone else are starting to see that, maybe there is, a happy medium between, this pharmaceutical, like conglomerate that's pushing everything and pushing all the drugs and pushing all this training and everything, so that, there needs to be options out there so people can actually choose to get off of those things. And they're out there, but you have to do your own research and you have to find the right people who will actually help you do it.
Okay. In your opinion, it's 2024. When I was a kid, they had sci-fis and there would be like space stations circling the Earth. We got one going up right now. Apparently they're going to drag it down here pretty quick or whatever. And there were, missions to Mars and possibly going out of the solar system by now. Do you feel that, and you touched upon this, that medicine for profit, and there's nothing wrong with capitalism. I'm just going to say that right now, okay? But medicine for profit, the problem with having the capitalism aspect into it, it's for profit. And having medicine for profit, there's more money in treatment, and you touched upon this, there's not much money in cures. And if you could make an anti-aging drug, you took one pill a day, right? And you took this for 200 or 300 years, if we could live that long, right? I definitely think people would pay for it.
Oh yeah, and they're working on stuff to help people be able to live into their, 120s, 150s, 180s. I think we're going to see that within our lifetime. That's what there are doctors out there who are treating aging as a disease because, basically as I understand it, our bodies, they stop producing hormones. It stops as we age, it stops producing things. But if we continue to produce those things like we did our hormones and chemicals in our bodies when we in our 20s and 30s, there's no reason for our bodies to actually, die off the way that they are. And so they're working on, treating, they're trying to cure aging, which is phenomenal. And we're going to see leaps and bounds in that, in the not too many, future years.
When I introduced you to look into Dr. David Sinclair, you delved into it, I would imagine, to a point. Okay?
Yep.
And you were like, well, who's this guy? And when I talked about the age reversal in the mice, the age reversal apparently in primates, not in the United States, in laboratories in other countries. And it's to my understanding that Sinclair is actually got approval for the FDA to inject eyes with his modified agent for glaucoma to regrow the eyes. This is all being done on a genetic level where the cells copy themselves correctly at genetic prime, and then the eye just grows back. I've watched every interview the man's done. I'm a huge fan. They're talking about injecting organs, with no side effects, no tumors, no cancer popping up, no mutagenic reactions.